Selling a business is a stressful time, and getting an offer for the business feels like a huge relief. It is in one sense, but equally the hard work is just beginning. To get from heads of terms through to cash in the bank means going through firstly a process called due diligence and then the legals of signing the contract. Often these two go hand in hand. I'm going to concentrate on the due diligence aspect, which is what an FD can be involved in. Firstly, I hope you've got an FD at this stage. Secondly, FDs are not supermen or superwomen. We're pretty good, but we can only do what we can do. Taking the company through this process, the bulk of the work falls on the FD, and their workload is going to really about double. So be aware of that. You may want to draft in some extra help to do that. We've been called in before to run the finance department while the existing FD does the due diligence. Due diligence means explaining what has happened to the business in the past, putting together detailed information so that when the purchaser writes out the cheque to you and the other shareholders for the business, they know what they're buying. They're going to ask about all sorts of things, from trifling things like the photocopy leases to what you last said to your biggest customer about price rises in 2008, however long ago that was. Be aware of two things here. Firstly, no business is perfect, and if you did say we're never going to have a price rise for the next 7 years in that instance, then that's what you said. You're going to have to stand by that, and people are going to say, not so sure about that, but it's what you said. But not so sure about that doesn't mean that they're going to walk away from the deal, because as I said, no business is perfect and nor is yours. In fact, I'd go so far as to say, unless they can find a problem in your business, they're not going to sign the deal because they know it's not perfect. And if it looks perfect, you know, have you ever bought anything that's perfect? No, nor have I. There are some things that will need to be fixed, and it could be as important as the entire stock recording of the business, which is what we helped a business with a few years ago. They had this idea that in order to work out their gross profit, they would simply decide what the stock figure was and put that into the accounts. Now, that sounds odd because it is, but whilst they were a private company and that's the way they were working and they were within bounds, that was all right. It worked for them, it worked for the auditors, but it wouldn't work for the purchaser. And that's where we came in. We came in and put the right systems in place that meant that the business had proper stock control, it knew what its gross margin was, it knew where the profits were coming from. So everybody was happy with that. Everybody understood that that was a properly controlled business. The business was still the same. It was still making those sales, it was still making those profits. But now everybody knew about that and the deal could be done. Finally, they'd got from heads of terms to completion, the cash was in the bank, and everybody lived happily ever after.